The Portuguese car number plate system for automobiles and motorcycles is simple and sequential. The system has no link to geographical locations as similar. It is an incremental numbering system consisting of 3 groups of 2 characters, separated by dashes. This system started in 1937 with AA1000. Then went on to 0000 AA and recently changed over to 00 AA 00. When this last sequence comes to an end, the plan is to replace it with the sequence AA00 AA. The Portuguese system is similar to the Netherlands' former license plate systems, and follows the same lines as former AA00 00 and 0000 AA, current 00 AA 00, and presumably, future AA00 AA, AAAA00 and 00 AA. More photos of plates and corroborating references can be found on this external link. Colors. Initially there were white characters on a black background, all of plastic. In 1992, the design was changed to one of black characters on a white background in metal or fiberglass. In that same year, the European blue ribbon was added with the Portuguese P denominator. In 1998, a yellow ribbon on the right side was added with the month and year in which the car was first registered, e.g. 99/12 for December 1999. The year comes on top of the month. This is different from systems such as in Germany, where the numbers indicate the start and end month of the vehicle's registration, and more similar to systems such as in Italy, where the date indicates the year of vehicle registration. Note that the date is that of first ever registration of the vehicle, not the date the vehicle was registered in Portugal. Some vehicles carry plates that have a year and month seemingly out of tune with the alphanumeric sequence, and the reason for this is that these are imported used vehicles. Special license plates. The sequences MG0000, ME0000, and MX0000 are only used by Portuguese Army vehicles. The sequence AP0000 is only used by Portuguese Navy vehicles. The sequence AM0000 is only used by Portuguese Air Force vehicles. The sequence 0001 Car 28079 KF was used for second-hand imported vehicles in 1997. The letters K, Y and W are not used as they are not part of the Portuguese alphabet. The Portuguese National Republican Guard uses the special sequence GNRA01 to GNRZ9999 in which the letter after the GNR identifies the type of vehicle, e.g., B for armored vehicle, J for off-roader, L for patrol vehicle, T for traffic, etc. Diplomatic vehicles use the sequences OOO-CD000, diplomats, OOO-CC000, consular personnel, and OOO-FM000, non-diplomatic embassy personnel, in which the first group of 3 numbers identify the country, with red characters on white and without the European blue ribbon. New, unregistered vehicles for sale use special plates with the name of the dealer followed by an identification number, with white characters on red and without the European blue ribbon. Trailers use another sequence which consists of 2 groups of characters separated by a dash. The first, with 1 or 2 letters, is the code of the regional registering office. The second is a sequential registration number with up to 6 digits. Vehicles for exportation use an inverse sequence of the trailers. First the registration number and second the office code. In this vehicles the letters EXP are placed in the yellow ribbon above the date. Industrial machines use the same sequence as cars and motorcycles but with black characters on red. These vehicles have an symbol indicating commercial class in the yellow ribbon rather than the year and month of registration. Duty and paid vehicles use 2 groups of characters separated by a dash. The first is a sequential number up to 5 digits while the second is a letter. The year band is white. The color is yellow like Netherlands vehicle registration plates. Iberland NATO base plates had a blue background with a yellow font and the sequence IBL0000. NATO plates start with NATO and followed by 4 numbers. District codes. Trailers and vehicles for export have the following district code letters in the license plates. A. Ponta Delgada, Azores. An. Angra de Heroísmo. AV. Aveiro. B. Beja. BN. Braganca. BR. Braga. C. Coimbra. CB. Castelo Branco. E. Évora. FA. Faro. GD. Garda. H. Horta. L. Lisbon. M. Funchal. Madeira. P. Porto. Oporto. PT. Porto Alegre. SAR. Santarém. Che. Setúbal. VC. Viana do Castelo. VR. Vila Real. VS. Viseu. Until the 1970s only the codes A, AN, C, H, L, M and P were used. After that, other registration offices were created with new codes. The following special codes are also used for trailers. D. Diplomatic. F. Non-diplomatic embassy. History. 1901 to 1911. Local license plates were issued from 1901 onwards by the district governor's office, and usually consisted of the full name or the abbreviation for the district followed by a serial number, e.g. Lisboa 123, or L. XA 123, for a vehicle registered in Lisbon. 1911 to 1936. A national car registration system was established in 1911. The country was divided into zones: North, Centre, South, and, from 1918, the Azores and Madeira, each having an identification number sequence for the license plates, which was N000, C000, S000, A000 and M000 respectively. Hire cars had a letter A added after the registration, e.g. S4226A, and provisionally registered vehicles had WW added, e.g. S1703WW. The plates were white letters on a black background. By the mid-1930s so many vehicles had already been registered, especially in the South Zone, which included the city of Lisbon, that the identification number had already reached 5 digits. As this created difficulties in the identification of vehicles by authorities, the system was changed. However, in the Azores and Madeira it persisted until 1962. 1937 to 1992. On 1 January 1937, the second national car registration system came into force. This consisted of the sequence A8N00 to ZZ99-99. The sequencing by zones was maintained, with the letters AA to LZ reserved for the south, Lisbon, MI to TZ for the north, Oporto, and UA to ZZ for the center, Coimbra. Again, the plates were white letters on a black background. Vehicles registered under the previous system had to change to the new one. In Lisbon the vehicles of series S000 and S1000 changed to series AA0000, those of S10000 to AB0000, those of S20000 to AC0000, and those of S30000 to AD0000. In Oporto the changes were from N000 and N1000 to MM0000 and from N10000 to MN0000. In Coimbra all vehicles changed to the series UU0000. In doing so, re-registered vehicles kept the last 4 digits that they had under the old system so that e.g. C123 changed to UU01-23. N12342mm12-34 and S12345-2AB23-45. The letters MG, and later, ME and MX were reserved for the Army, AB for the Navy, AM for the Air Force and EP for government ministries. The letters CD, CC and FM were reserved for diplomatic vehicles, respectively for diplomatic, consular and non-diplomatic personnel, but with red characters on a white background. The letters TAR, TB and TC, in red plates with white characters were reserved for temporary licenses respectively in Lisbon, Oporto and Coimbra. National Republican Guard and the former Fiscal Guard had special sequences beginning respectively with the letters GNR and GF. In the Azores and Madeira, the new system was only adopted in 1962. The Azores were divided into 3 registration districts: Ponta Delgada, Angra de Heroísmo and Horta. The letters N were reserved for Angra, Arenas for Ponta Delgada and HO for Horta. For Madeira, the groups MA and MD were reserved. The white letters on red TD, TG, TH and TF were for temporary licenses respectively in Ponta Delgada, Angra, Horta and Madeira. In the 1970s, new district registration offices were opened, and letters reserved for them. M and F for Évora, ZA and ZB for Braga, ZC and ZD for Vila Real, Z and ZF for Aveiro, ZG and ZH for Garda, Z and ZL for Santarém, ZM and Zinc for Setúbal and ZO and ZP for Faro. As Évora was considered a central office, it also had a temporary license code, T. However, as the zonal registration system was abandoned relatively soon afterwards, most of these sequences were not used as zonal identifiers. In the early 1980s, the reservation of letter sequences by zone was discontinued, and vehicles were registered sequentially at a national level. So the letter combinations previously reserved for Oporto and Coimbra might be seen on vehicles registered in the Lisbon offices of the National Registration Office. In 1985, diplomatic plates adopted the format 000CD000, 000CC000 or 000FM000, with the first 3 numbers a country identifier, and the last 3 sequential. 1992–present. In March 1992, the AA0000 format came to an end and was succeeded by the genuinely national-level 0000 AA sequence. The type of plate also changed to black characters on a reflective white background, with the blue ribbon, with the emblem of the European Communities, now Union, on the left-hand side and the letter P as a country identifier. Under this new sequence, no combination of letters was reserved for specific entities or areas. However, in 1997 the combinations CAR to KZ, the first letter of which sequence does not occur in the Portuguese alphabet and so had not previously been used, were given over to pre-registered imported vehicles. The groups WA to WZ and YA to YZ were likewise reserved for this purpose, but the system was abandoned at the end of the year. In 1998, a yellow ribbon with the date of the first registration of the vehicle was introduced on the right-hand side of the plate. This is mandatory for all newly registered vehicles, whether new or second-hand imports. In 2005 the 0000 AA sequence ended, and 00 AA 00 was introduced. 1998 the yellow band showing first registration, see above, was also introduced, and in 2005 the format 0000 AA passed to 00 AA 00. Currently, at time of writing, the 5th of March 2017, the sequences at 00 SP 00, a comprehensive list of the history of sequences from 1956 to mid-2015, in Portuguese, can be found here. Sequences with the letters CU FD and OO, were originally not used. The first two because they coincided with the slang words CU, us, FD, Portuguese abbreviation for fuck, and the last to avoid confusion with OO, 0. However, the CU sequence was used in 1982 on Lisbon registered vehicles and OO in 1966, 1967, 1978, 1979 and 1982 on Oporto registered vehicles. It should be noted that it is technically incorrect to say that license plates are issued. The authorities issue a registration number and it is then the owner's responsibility to have the plates made up, either of plastic or metal, on production of the appropriate documentation. In the case of new car sales, this is done by the dealer. Portuguese overseas territories former plates. The models of Portuguese car plates were followed by the then Portuguese overseas territories. At the beginning the model of 1911 was followed. Each colony had a group of 1 to 3 letters which designated the colony itself or a district. Inside the colony, the letters were followed by a serial number. E.g. G12344 a car registered in Guinea, a CVS 1235 for one registered in the southeast district of Cape Verde. In the 1950s and 1960s, the licensing systems in all colonies were changed to systems based on the Portuguese one of 1937. By territory the sequences used were Angola, AXX00, the second and third letters were reserved by district. Cape Verde, CVX00, the third letter identified the island group. S. Sotavento. B. Barlavento. Portuguese Guinea, G00, Portuguese India, IXX00, the second and third letters were reserved by district. IGA2 IGZ for Goa district. Macau, MO00 and later MX00, the second letter was sequential. ME00 numbers did not cause problems as Portugal withdrew its armed forces in the 1970s. Mozambique, MXX00, the second and third letters were reserved by district. São Tomé and Príncipe, STP00, Portuguese Timor, TOO, and latter TP00, with some minor differences. These systems are still in use in São Tomé and Príncipe, Mozambique, Macau, and Angola. Cape Verde has adapted the system to use different two-letter codes for each island. See also Vehicle registration plates of Europe. Media related to license plates of Portugal at Wikimedia Commons.